Perimenopause hit me hard this week, and it brought up a fear that I've been carrying with me for almost 20 years. This week's Mounjaro update took a little bit of a turn that I wasn't expecting. With the 20-year anniversary of losing my mom coming up in July, this year has already felt very emotional. So when my own body started doing something that reminded me of something she went through, it scared me in a way that is really hard to share. Today we're talking about Mounjaro, perimenopause, grief, family history, and trying to still listen to my body while taking things one day at a time. Welcome to Slow and Steady with Andy. I'm Andy, and I am on Mounjaro for type 2 diabetes, PCOS, which I know is now called PMOS, insulin resistance, and can't forget, ridiculously slow weight loss. This week, I'm also talking about perimenopause because it hit me hard. And I know there are other women in this community that are also dealing with weight loss, hormones, blood sugar, perimenopause, menopause, and all the other emotional mess that comes along with it. I'll also share my weekly update, my weigh-in, and at the end of this video, I will take this week's injection with y'all. And if any of my male viewers are watching, don't panic. This is not going to be an every week conversation. But if you have a woman in your life that you care about, this could help you understand a little bit better what she might be going through. So, what happened this week? It actually started last Friday. And what I noticed was some light spotting going on. Really wasn't sure. I thought maybe it was the start of some sort of UTI. I don't know. I haven't had a UTI since my 20s. But anyways, when you don't have periods very often, my last period was, I think, 8 months ago, you kind of forget the whole process of how it starts, what you feel. At least I do. I've always had an irregular period. I knew people that knew days in advance, like they had their period on the calendar. They knew what day it was going to start. They knew what time it was going to start. They knew what certain symptoms felt like, letting them know they were going to start. And because I was so irregular, I just never really got that. The one thing I did notice was I had very low back pain, like pelvic pain. And that to me was a signal that maybe I'm about to start. So going into Saturday, my bleeding started to get really heavy. I've never really experienced super heavy. And in my late teens, 20s, my periods would be 3 days. It would have a light first day, a little bit of a heavier second day, and then the third day would be the ending day. And so it was just really unexpected. I had some clotting going on, and it wasn't enough where I was soaking through a pad like every hour or anything like that. I was having to change it out probably every 2 to 3 hours, mainly because it wasn't getting soaked through. But I mean, we're just gonna be real here and talk about this. When blood sits for a while, it gets an odor, right? And I like to change out my pad frequently, so I'm not dealing with that. So anyhow, I was doing that, and then I would notice in the toilet, I would see more and more clotting. It wasn't the type that was like balls. It was more like that shredded paper type of look. So, uterine lining. I haven't had a period in 8 months. I would imagine that there's probably a lot of lining built up. Anyhow, I knew it wasn't something that was super serious because I wasn't getting dizzy. I just didn't have any of those telltale, hey, you're bleeding way more than you should be. You better go to urgent care or something. But it was enough that started to make me feel highly emotional and very, very uneasy. Waking up Sunday morning, even with like a really like heavy period pad, I had leaked out overnight, so ruined that set of sheets. But it was getting heavier. It seemed significantly heavier. Again, it wasn't enough that I thought it was any type of an emergency, but it just was not my normal. It was very different than anything I've experienced before. So that continued on throughout the week, way past my typical 3-day period. It got to be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and I was still experiencing it. And I was ready to say, if this doesn't stop soon, then I'm going to go ahead and send a message out to my doctor. And the reason why this all had me pretty upset and feeling really scared was because my mom in her 60s was still experiencing periods, but she was getting very frequent bleeding. And at some point in her 50s, maybe it even went into her early 60s, she had to have a couple D&Cs because it was in an effort to try and clean out the uterus and stop this excessive bleeding from going on. But at 69 years old, she was still just really experiencing this frequent, very heavy bleeding. And it was decided at that point that she would be getting a hysterectomy. This was in 2006. I was, I think, 30 years old, 30 or 31 years old. Anyways, so hysterectomies are a fairly routine surgery. I know there's been some advancement now, but back in 2006, the type of hysterectomy she had, we knew that she would have to be in the hospital for 3 days, and at 3 days, they would remove the staples from where they entered to do the surgery, and at that point, she would be able to be released and come home for recovery. And okay, so this is going to be really hard for me to tell, but I think it's important to explain some of these heavy fears that I carry. And so me and my dad and my sisters were all there at the hospital with her while she was having the hysterectomy. And when she came out of the hysterectomy, there were already complications. And she came out of it with her kidneys not functioning. It was pretty much determined after several hours knowing her kidneys were not coming back on their own that she was going to have to start dialysis. At this point, my mom was conscious. She didn't feel good, but she was conscious. And so she was in the hospital. We're like, okay, she's got to get dialysis. And day 3 comes around, and somebody was always going up to the hospital to check on my mom. My sister and my dad mainly were there because at this time I lived in Cincinnati and they were still in Michigan. And I'm sorry, there's just a lot of story in here to tell. And to try and shorten this, they removed the staples the night before. And when my sister got there in the morning, that area where the incision was had bled. And it bled so much that my mom needed an emergency blood transfusion because the amount of blood she had in her body was lower than what the human body could tolerate. And unfortunately, she had already lost so much blood that her organs started shutting down. So, to try and shorten this up, what was supposed to be a normal routine hysterectomy was 5 weeks of watching my mom die. So when my body is also following a lot of the same patterns that she went through, it really scares me because I'm terrified of getting to the point where they tell me that I need to get a hysterectomy. Again, I'm 51 years old, so I'm like heading into that area, and I'm terrified. I don't want to have to ever have one because I don't trust it. I don't want I don't want to leave my life. I don't want the people I love to see me go through something like that. And look, I'm rational. I know that a few days of heavy bleeding is not the same thing that happened to her, but it still just touched on that fear that I really tried to keep burrowed down and not think about. And I know that this video is a lot different than all the other videos I've put out so far, but this channel is Slow and Steady with Andy. This is my health journey. It's not just a GLP-1 channel. It's not just a Mounjaro channel. It's not just a type 2 diabetes channel. It's all the things wrapped in one and sharing my life with you, which is not easy all the time. But I know that there are so many other people. Maybe it's not the exact same story, but there are things that start just bringing up fears in us as we get older and are just experiencing so many changes that we're not used to. And I'm sharing this part of me because more than anything on this channel, the one thing that I want out of this channel is for anyone who might click on one of my videos who is feeling alone to leave after they've watched that video feeling like they're not alone, because you're not alone. And I'm very emotional in this video and very emotional around my house on a daily basis, honestly, because this isn't just 20 years of after losing my mom. After my mom passed away at 69 years old, I lost my dad 3 months later he was 75 years old. Although it still hurt incredibly bad, he passed peacefully in his sleep, and I know it's because he had a broken heart. He loved my mama so much, and it's just hard. 20 years, and it is still just raw, really raw sometimes. Grief doesn't always show up in a neat little packaged way. And sometimes out of nowhere, something happens with our body that just brings up something that has emotionally hurt us. The heavier period probably would have bothered me anyways, but the timing of it just made it that much harder. And like I said, I'm okay sharing this on my channel because this is my real life, not just perfect little updates every week. And I wasn't planning on going into so many details today, but I just felt like I should just put it out there because what happened to my mom just changed me. As far as the heavy bleeding that I went through this week, I'm not panicking, but I'm definitely not ignoring it. I've really been trying to pay attention to what my body is doing, not just while I'm on Mounjaro, but just overall as I'm going through these stages of life with so many changes going on. And this is all just another example of how weight loss and hormone changes and type 2 diabetes and perimenopause and all of it can just pile up and feel so heavy sometimes. But for sure, I'm just trying to pay close attention and trying not to let the fear take over. And if this is the kind of real life GLP-1 journey that you can relate to, I would love for you to subscribe and become part of this slow and steady community. I'm not just sharing the medication part, I'm sharing the messy, real life stuff that comes with trying to take better care of your health. And if this video has helped you feel less alone, please give it a like. If YouTube gives you the option, hype it so that way it will push it out to other people who may need to find this community. Okay, so that is the bigger thing that has went on with me emotionally and physically this week. Now that I got myself back together here, let's get into the weekly update part of this video. So I am finishing out my 5th week on the 12.5 milligram Mounjaro, and really, I still don't notice much difference from the 10 milligram. My blood sugar has still been very stable with the occasional critical low just from waiting too long to eat. But appetite suppression is still extremely strong. As far as side effects, I still get burps and farts because of my excess of broccoli that I like to eat, broccoli and garlic, but I'm not stopping eating broccoli and garlic. Those are my favorites, and it's okay. My husband, thankfully, is able to laugh it off and loves me whether I'm gassy or not. The other side effect I'm still getting occasionally is sometimes in the morning I have some diarrhea. I don't think I've had it as much this week though. So maybe it is because I got more fiber in. So that'll kind of be my test for myself next week. As far as protein, I'm still struggling to get to that 132 minimum that my nutritionist set for me, but I do think this past week I've been better. I've really made sure that I'm getting more chicken breast. So if you watched a couple videos ago, I talked about some of my protein go-tos to make life easier, and I get this bag of pre-grilled chicken breast from Sam's Club. So tasty. So I try to get 1 or 2 of those every day. One of those chicken breasts is 29 grams of protein. So it's a no-brainer for me in my really busy life to have that chicken in my house every week. As far as sleep, that actually has been better this week because I've been taking my melatonin melton strips every night. If you want to see which kind I take, I do have my Amazon storefront link in the description down below. You can check it out. But it's a 5 milligram and it really has been helping. And the next day, I'm feeling much more energetic. When I get off of work, usually I'm just feeling so like blocked because I really don't like my Monday through Friday job. But as soon as I am done with work, I'm going outside, I'm taking care of my garden, watering all my stuff that I need to water. I've been cleaning my house like crazy, like doing some deep cleaning, some stuff that I've been putting off for a while. And I'm like, who is this? I'm like zooming all around. So I am hoping that means that my body is just having less cortisol build up because I'm getting better sleep, and hopefully that's going to start triggering some weight loss. Because if this is your first time watching, I have officially been on Mounjaro for a year. I started early June of 2025, and as of the time I'm recording this video, we're like in the last week of June. And I started at 267 pounds, and at my last weigh-in, well, I'm not going to think about last week's weigh-in. I'm going to think about what was the lowest weight I've reached so far since starting Mounjaro, and that was 234. Last week, I think last week it was like 237 or 236. I don't know, but I know that a lot of it was water retention. So I am excited to share with you what my weight was this morning. And I think that's about it. So let me just throw up. No, not throw up. Let me put up on the screen the screenshot recording of my Scales app as I weigh in. And drum roll, da 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 da. There we go. 233. I forget if it was 233 point something. But anyways, 233. That is my official new low since starting Mounjaro. So slow and steady. I am totally living up to that. But I have noticed what I think since I started 12.5, I think I've had 3 pounds of loss. So it must be doing something. I don't know if that's because it's a higher dose or maybe just all the things factored in, trying to get better sleep, more protein. Maybe it's all just finally clicking and connecting. So I'm really hoping that I will continue to see weight loss, even if it's slow, even if it's a half a pound a week. I don't really want more than a pound a week. My doctor said don't lose more than a pound a week or else you're probably losing muscle mass. So trying to just really stay on track, follow my doctor and my nutritionist guidance for me, and slowly we will get to my goal. Hopefully before like I'm 60. That would be nice. But all right, so I'm going to get set up for my week 6 injection, and I think I'm actually going to inject in my belly this week. You know that for months and months and months I have been doing my arm and my thigh only because I don't get a response when I inject in my belly, but I just don't feel like feeling the pain of injecting in my arm today. So I was like, you know what? Let's just do the belly. It's been quite a long time since I've tried it. So let's see what happens. Maybe I'll get a better response. But if I'm telling you that if I am hungry like crazy this week, your girl will never inject in the belly again. I promise. So let me get set up and let's do this. Okay, so I can't believe I'm about to show you guys this, but my belly is really my biggest part where I hold a lot of my weight, and I can't believe I'm showing it right now, but hey, I said I was gonna show you real life, so here we go. Somewhere over here is my belly button. Okay, I'm gonna inject right around here. Ugh. This is so weird. I'm not used to doing it in my belly. Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. Oh my gosh, you guys, that was so pleasant. I hardly felt anything. I really hope that I get good response, because I would love to just continue injecting in my tummy, but I just, like I said, I never got a response. And we've also discovered something with my husband. Now, he takes a GLP-1 compound of semaglutide from Poly, and he's been injecting in his tummy, and he's been dealing with a lot of diarrhea since he's got on the, I think it's the 5 milligram. I don't know. Semaglutide has a weird milligram structure, so I'm not quite sure. We just know when they send us his vials, they have like month 1, month 2, month 3 on it. So we just follow the number that they tell us. But anyhow, a few weeks ago, I said, you know what, let me inject in your arm. And we did. And the arm stings him quite a bit too, because he doesn't get like the nice little Mounjaro pen. He uses a syringe. So it did sting a little, but he noticed that he didn't have diarrhea the whole week. So did a little experiment. The following week, he went back to injecting in his belly, and he had the diarrhea again. So this week when he takes his injection, we're going to go back to trying his arm and see if he has another week without the diarrhea. And if that's the case, then he's just going to deal with the sting and continue to inject in his arm. And if you're still here with me, thank you so much. I know this week was not some big, exciting weekly update video. It was just one of those weeks where hormones, grief, real life, all the things just felt like they piled up on me. And I know for sure I am not the only one who has weeks like that. Sometimes it feels like we're trying to take care of our health, trying to manage what our body's doing, dealing with real life, and still trying to hold it all together through it all. So if you're in a season where your body feels unpredictable, your hormones are sitting closer to the surface, or you're just trying to stay steady while one more thing gets thrown at you, I just want you to know that you are not alone in this. I'm still here, still taking it 1 week at a time, and still trying to listen to my body without letting the hard parts shut me down. And that is what this slow and steady journey is really about. Not perfect weeks, not weight loss, just continuing to show up even when the week is heavier than expected. Slow and steady still counts, and I'll see y'all next week. Bye!
Some things are not the same as they were a year ago, but all will be okay. I move on each and every day. The past is where it stays, way back a year ago. I've changed for the better this time. I thought I would never be fine. I strive just to say I'm alright, and for the first time in a long time I'm alright. I've seen a lot of change, been through a lot of pain. Some things are not the same.